Yep. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Utpal. Good evening, DigiWorld. Good evening, Positive. Good evening, Ambition. Nanda. Good evening, everyone. How are you all? Good evening, guys. How are you all? Tell me. Good evening, and welcome back to the day 2 of this asynchronous JavaScript masterclass. Good evening, Sham. Good evening, Subhashini. Good evening, everyone. How are you all? All good? All good at your side? That's great. That's great. Okay. So yep, guys. First of all, I'm sorry for yesterday. Yesterday, I don't know, some crash happened. Then my audio suddenly stopped working. Then I tried to fix it, and it was crashing again and again. So I figured it out. I installed, uninstalled, did a lot of things in the evening. Then finally solved it. So first of all, sorry for yesterday, but don't worry. We are not going to be short on topics. I'm not going to cut any topics. We'll be completing everything today. Everything. Okay. As planned, we'll be talking about promises, we'll be talking about async, await, error handling, we'll be understanding why promises are there and how to use them. Okay, so we'll be doing everything, no cutting of the topics. Even if we lost a day yesterday, no cutting of the topics. Okay, so welcome back to day 2 of this asynchronous JavaScript masterclass, guys, and let's start. Okay, so before we start, I would just like to do a quick 2-minute revision. Okay, so far we have understood what exactly is asynchronous, what is the meaning of asynchronous, right? We understood that in JavaScript, something like multi-threading is not possible. Now, for everyone who is new today, you might not understand what I'm talking about. You might, or you know. So I would suggest you to watch the first day of this course. Okay, that was day 1. There we have talked about everything, multi-threading, and how JavaScript doesn't support multi-threading, but how to achieve asynchronous coding in JavaScript. All that we have talked about. So guys, so far we have understood that what is asynchronous. It's nothing but where sometimes you have some kind of code which is taking a lot of time to execute. So what you do is, in JavaScript, you put it under a set timeout, right? Set timeout takes it away to a web API, which doesn't block your code, and then gives the callback to the callback queue, and then again it comes back to your main thread, and then it executes. Right, guys? We have talked about this, right, everyone? This is what happens, right, in JavaScript. Okay, just to give you a quick revision, like just a 1-minute revision, so that you know everything is cleared. So we have seen that if I have some lines of code like this, let's say line number 1. Okay, just a quick revision. Line number 2 and line number 3, and let's say line number 4. Okay, so let's say I have some code like this. Okay, in this case, JavaScript by default is synchronous. It's single threaded. That means here everything executes on a single thread. That's why everything has to execute one by one. That means in JavaScript, first this line will execute, then only this line will execute, then only this line, and then after this only this line. That means whatever task is before, that will be executed first completely, only then the other one will be executed. This is what we talked about in detail in the first session, guys. Okay, if you want to recover it, I will just suggest you to watch the first session again, but just giving you a quick revision. So the problem that we had was, if this particular line of code takes more time, let's say 2 minutes, 3 minutes, like right now it's just a simple console.log, but in future it can be anything. It can be a file reading operation, it can be an internet call, it can be a big loop of 1000, 2000 times. So this line of code can be anything. So if this line of code is taking time, whatever code is after that, they have to wait for this line of code to complete, and this creates a problem. This makes your website slow, this makes your program slow, and at the end you have a bad experience. Your users will have a bad experience in your website. That's why what we do is, we make this task asynchronous, right? That's what we do, right? We make this particular task asynchronous, and in JavaScript, the simplest way to make anything asynchronous is, we just put it under a set timeout, right? Just like this, we put it under a set timeout, which has a callback function. So whatever code we feel that is taking time, we put it under a set timeout. And by default, I don't want set timeout to take any extra time, so I just give it 0 milliseconds. That means I want you to only have 0 milliseconds. That means I am not using set timeout for its actual purpose of giving a timer. I'm only using set timeout so that this set timeout will make sure that it takes this callback function to the web API. It will remove this code from the main thread, right? It will remove this code from the main thread so that now what will happen? This code will execute. This code will execute. Set timeout makes sure, oh, I don't have to execute on the main thread. So it will take this code into the web API, and then after that other code can execute. And once this all the synchronous code is executed, this line, then this line, then this line, then after that, once everything is finished, then event loop will make sure that it takes this callback function again to the main thread, and then at the end this code can be executed. Now guys, I'm just giving you a quick revision. Please everyone, if you're new here, if you're watching this lecture for the first time, I would suggest you to watch the first session. Okay, I would really suggest you to watch the first session. There we have talked about all this in so much detail. Here I'm just giving a revision. Okay, no, the video won't be private. Good evening Komalpreet, good evening Bibek, good evening E Ganesh. The video won't be private. So guys, I hope the revision is done. So far we have seen that if I want to make anything asynchronous, that if I want to make anything non-blocking, if I don't want this code to block any of my code, I will put it under a set timeout, which will make sure that this line of code will not block anything after that. So everything will execute, and at the end this will execute. So nothing will be blocked. That's what we wanted. So we can use set timeout to make anything asynchronous in JavaScript. We have seen in the first lecture. Now let's move forward with today's session, where we'll talk more about it. We'll understand advantages, disadvantages, and we'll talk about some modern things today. Okay, so let's go. So now guys, in the first session we only understood how to make something asynchronous. Now today let's talk about it. Let's say what if there is something asynchronous. Now right now guys, I'm not going to create any asynchronous task, but I really want to give you an example. That's why I'll just take a dummy example just to show you how will we write the code if I have something asynchronous. Is that clear guys, everyone? So let's say I have a code like something like, let's say I have a function like get users, something like that. Okay, I have a function get users whose job is to get users from internet, and whenever your code calls the internet, it's always a time consuming task. So I know, so this is like get users from Facebook, something like that. Okay, I'm not really getting users from Facebook, but let's say I'm creating a function which will get users from Facebook. Okay, now that means whatever code I write here, I'm gonna be writing a code here which will call Facebook servers to give some users data to me. Now it's gonna call Facebook server. That means there can be a lot of potential problems there. The server might be slow, the internet might be slow, right? The server might be busy. That means this calling the Facebook server and getting the data back might take some moments, 3 seconds, 3 minutes, we don't know. So in this case, if I write some code here, that code, if it takes time, it will definitely block my code. If it will definitely block my other code, if that particular code takes time. That's why it's my job to make this code asynchronous. So let's say I write some code here. Let's say, some code, something like that. Some code. We don't know right now what is the code, but let's say some code. Okay. And at the end, here I'm going to get the users. So at the end, I'm going to get users here. So let's say I get some random users like, So let's say guys, the code got executed. We got the data from Facebook server, and this is the data. I got 2-3 users, like let's say I got Saurabh, and I got, let's say, Utpal. So I got some users. So let's say after executing this code and after doing all this thing, I got the data from the server, and this is the data which is stored inside users variable. Nice. But as I said, if I call this function anywhere, okay, this function might take 3 seconds to 3 minutes to 30 minutes to execute. I don't know, because it's calling, let's say here I write, something like call server, then prepare data. Some code is there which is doing all this stuff. So let's say these lines of code take a little time. So if I call this function will take so much time to execute that if there is some code after this, some code after this, like let's say something like console.log, some code. So this code will have to wait for this function to complete, and that's what I don't want. That's why, according to the first lecture, will put this particular code inside a set timeout. Okay, that's our job. We'll put this particular code inside a set timeout. Guys, I want your complete focus, okay? I want your complete detailed focus today. And I'm going to give it 0 seconds because I don't want any extra time. And then I'll put this function inside this. So now what will happen, guys? Now what will happen here is, okay, I have a set timeout. Inside that there is a callback function, inside which I'm calling my main function, which is get users from Facebook. Now what will happen is, this set timeout will take this particular function or this particular set of code to the API, which will make sure that whatever code is after this will not be blocked. And since it will not be blocked, okay, all the things can execute, and at the end this thing will execute, and that's fine. This is my solution. So it's fine, guys, it will all work. Like, let me also prove it to you. So let's say here I'm printing the users as well. So console.log users, okay, and let's say I also have some code before this, you know, some code line 1 and some code line 2. Okay, so guys, this is my main thing, a function which will take a time. I don't know, it will take time. I'm putting it inside set timeout. I have some code before it, I have some code after it. Now you'll understand that because this is asynchronous, first this will execute, then this will execute, and at the end this will execute, and that's why this should be printed last. Let's see if it is working. So let's copy the path, go on our browser. So let me take a browser window quickly. Okay, and here if you see in your console, see that, guys, everyone, first you get some code line 1, then you get some code line 2. That means now in this case this particular code is not blocking this code. You can see, right, that code got executed first and then your function got executed, which was printing the array. Is that clear, guys? Everyone, are we cleared with this logic at least? How I made this task asynchronous? Just by putting inside set timeout. Right now it's a dummy task, but in future it can be a real task, and that's how you'll make it asynchronous, depending on what we have learned in the first lecture. Cleared, guys, everyone? Can you please confirm? Everyone? Okay, simple, nice. Now here's the main thing. Right now it's fine, but in future, what if I have multiple asynchronous tasks? Like, for example, right now I'm only calling users. What if after calling users I also want to see their post? Right now, to call the post or to see the post of users, you need users. That means only after getting the users you can get the post. Without getting users you can't get the post, because let's say I got users and now from that users I want to see Saurabh's post. Okay, so let's say for that we create one more function. Okay, let's say we create a function get posts for user, and I'm asking this function that I will give you a particular user, and for that user give me all the post. Okay, so I create a function. Okay, here again call the API, okay, pass the user for post. I'm just writing the algorithm, guys, no real code. For pass the user for getting post, and let's say finally here's your real data that you wanted. Okay, some post. So let's say, you know, in the post we have title, holiday, something like that. Okay, and then one more post for that particular user. Guys, all dummy data, okay, no real data, just dummy data just to showcase the main thing. Title, let's say good day spent, something like that. Okay, so 2 posts are coming from the backend. Nice. So this is the function to which I have to give a user, and it will give me back post. Now I'm calling this get users from Facebook here. After calling this function only, I have to call this function, right? So I have to go here and I can call get. So now here, guys, instead of logging, I have to return the users like this. I have to return the users like this, guys. Return user. Okay, so getting the user and returning the user. That means whatever this function is returning, I can access it here. So here, let users like this. And again, guys, here now I've got my users in this. So now I can call get, but this is also an API call. This might also take some time. So I also have to make this, what guys, asynchronous. So I have to also make this function called asynchronous. So I have to go and make sure I also put that in a set timeout, right? Because I also want to make it asynchronous. Same logic guys, simple logic. So function, okay, and then 0 seconds, and here I can call this particular function, get post for user. So here I can go ahead and let posts equals get post for user, and I can pass this users is an array, so I can pass one of the users. Let's say users of 1. Just for now I passed 1, and I got all my post here. Simple idea. Because I have to make sure that first this gets called and then only this gets called. But guys, in here there is some issue. What if this task takes more time and this task takes less time? In this case, they are not dependent on each other. They are two different lines of code, right guys? Everyone. What if this task is still working? It's still taking its time. Let's say it's taking 3 minutes. So it's still working. But by that time, this set timeout has finished and this is getting called. But this should not get called until and unless I'm sure that my users are here. I have to make sure that only after my users are available. So this line of, right now this code is fine, but this will only work if this and this work in sequence. But what if this task takes 3 minutes and this task only takes 10 seconds? That means this is still waiting and now I'm calling this. But if I'm calling this, I need to have the users, but they are not available yet because this task is taking time. And that's the issue guys. That's why we had to do one more thing. We have to make them dependent of each other, right? So what we can do now is, rather than doing this, no, not promise yet, not promise. We are not at promise yet. Wait. So now what we have to do is, instead of returning users, see guys, one more technique. Don't worry guys. Now to make them dependent, we can do one more technique. We can pass a function here. So let's say I'm passing a function here. Let's say we just call it as callback. Guys, you can, this is just a parameter name. I hope you again remember your first lecture guys. I taught you about callback, right? So this is just a function. No need of await. First of all, we are understanding the problem guys. Right now we are understanding the problem. I'm not directly teaching you promise. I want you guys to understand the problem, okay? Because this is asked in interviews. So to solve it, I'm gonna use the callback logic. Remember guys, in the first session we understood callbacks. Everyone, we learned about callbacks, right? In the first lecture we learned about callbacks. That is, we can pass functions through parameters, okay? So I am going to pass a function through parameter here. So I'm just calling it callback. You can call it anything guys. Let's call it CB. You can call it whatever you want guys, up to you. You can call it whatever you want. So let's call it CB, that stands for callback. And here I'm saying, okay fine, good, okay. See guys, now what I'm doing, focus here. I'm saying this function will call the server, prepare the data and finally get the users. Okay. So these 3 lines of code will get the users. After getting the users, I will call that CB function which is coming in the parameter. And to that function, I'm going to pass this users as argument. So whatever users I got, I will pass all those users as argument to this CB function. That means now, guys, important thing, now, wherever I'm calling this get, let's remove this, wherever I'm calling this get users from Facebook, inside that now I have to pass an argument which should be a function, because here this CB I'm calling it like a function, right? And I'm passing an argument. So I'm using this CB like a function and I'm passing an argument. That means now at the place of this CB I need to send a function. Okay, so here I'll pass a function. Guys, remember everyone, this is what we learned on the first day, right? So here I'll pass a function, and now guys, this function will go inside CB, and I'm calling CB here and passing an argument. And since I'm passing an argument, I have to create a parameter for it. So here I'll create a parameter. Let's call it as users only. Fine. And this is what I need to do. This is what I have to do. So that first get users from Facebook is called. It gets its data properly, and then only it calls my callback function and sends user to it, and then I'll get my users. And now guys, here I'm sure I got my users, because this callback function will be only called once I got my users. Is that clear everyone? Because see, here's the logic. First prepare the data and then call the callback function. So this callback function will be only called once this function has done executing. And that's why in here I'm sure I have got my users. And now here I can call that set timeout, because again now I need to call what? This function, get post. Right everyone? Now I need to call get post. So it's also asynchronous. So putting that in a set timeout once again. So function 0 seconds. And here I can call get post from user. And whatever I'm receiving in this users, I'll pass one of the users here for now. So users of, let's say 0. Is that clear everyone? Now, just think again. What if now based on user, so I got the post. Now what if based on post, I need to get all its comments? Now I got the post. Now I need to get all its comments. So again I have to repeat the same approach. Okay. What I'll do is, I'll say, okay, fine. You also have to get a callback. I'm giving you a function as a argument, as a parameter. Once you get all the post, please send me all the post through that callback function. Please send me all the posts that you got through that callback function, so that wherever I call you, get post user, wherever I call you, I can pass a callback function to you and I can get all these posts. So here I'll go again and I'll pass a callback function like this. And here I'll be getting all my posts, because this function is getting called here and it is sending post as argument. So I'll be receiving it in this parameter. And now after getting the post here, I can call the function for getting the comments or replies or likes or whatever it is. Is that clear guys? Everyone understood the criteria here, what's going on? So every time we have to call set timeout for making function asynchronous, and we have to write it again and yes, exactly Komalpreet. Don't worry, yes positive, that is the problem. Now see guys, here what's happening is, see, we are having set timeout which is having a callback, and then get user from Facebook which is again having a callback, and then set timeout which is again having a callback, and then get post from user which is again having a callback, and inside this again there will be a function which will have a callback, and it's just like callback inside callback inside callback inside callback, and everything is dependent on each other completely, which is fine, but this code is very tough to look at and this code is very confusing, right? And very, less understandable. This is what we call as callback hell. When you have callback inside callback inside callback, and this is one of the biggest problems of handling asynchronous task in JavaScript. And guys, previously this is how it was handled. At some point of time, this is how things were handled. Is that clear everyone? You guys got the point? This is what we call as callback hell in JavaScript. Okay? Guys, understood? Please tell me guys, I want you guys to be completely understanding this so that the solution can be more understood to you. That's why. Confirm guys, everyone. Have you guys understood this? If you want, I can explain it again. Okay? If you want, I can explain it a little more again. Don't worry. Because I want you guys to understand the problem more. Because then solution will be understood easily. See, again guys. Let's do the logic. Okay, quick revision. I have a function get users from Facebook in which some code runs, and let's say I get my users. Okay. Now to make it available properly, I say I'm gonna get this callback function as argument. Okay, and I'll call that function here and I'll send all my users. Nice. And I also want this function to be executed asynchronously. That's why I put it inside a set timeout. Fine. So I put a set timeout and I pass my get users from Facebook function in that. So now it will be executed asynchronously. But get users from Facebook is expecting a parameter which should be a function because I'm calling it and passing an argument. So that's why I pass a function, okay, as a parameter, this function. And inside this function, in here, I'm gonna get the users returned from CB. Okay, guys, this CB is just a name. It's a parameter. You can call it whatever you want. Okay, so I'll get those users here. After getting the users, I'm again calling one set timeout because this get post from user should also be asynchronous. That's why one more set timeout. That means wherever I feel I need this to be asynchronous, I put set timeout. Okay, and then I call get post from users. Then there I pass the one user for which I want to get post, and then one more callback function in which I'll receive my post. And just like that, I can carry on. then from post I can get comments, from comments I can get likes, then replies, then all that stuff. Okay, so guys, this was it. This is the idea, but this is how it was handled previously. But guys, this is what we call as callback hell, when you have callbacks inside callbacks inside callbacks. For some levels it's fine, for 1 or 2 level it's good, it's not bad. But if you're going beyond 3, 4, 5 levels of callbacks, that means you're doing something wrong. There can be much more better way of handling that. If you're going beyond 4 or 5, that means you're going into that hell. Okay, so it has very amazing names. Callback hell, some people call it pyramid of doom, because it forms a triangle like this. See, from here it is forming a triangle, right? So that's why, guys, and you should always avoid it, because it is very error prone. And see guys, right now I have not included error handling in this. Now just think, if I include error handling in this, if I include if and else in this, how much this code will become complicated. Right now it's simply simple callings. What if I do some DOM manipulation task in this? What if I'm also doing some messaging display task in this? Some putting some if and else for error handling, right? This code will look worst. And that's the problem with this, guys. Okay. So set timeout is fine. It makes your task asynchronous, but the problem here is we are going to a problematic code which will be very tough to handle in future. Okay. Now here we will call comment function by making it asynchronous. Yes, exactly. Yes. So one more set timeout, then comment function, one more set timeout, then some like function, reply function, all that stuff. Yes, Sahil, you understood properly. Yes, buddy. So guys, till 2015 this was the case. Okay, we used to handle our asynchronous task and the data coming from our synchronous function using callbacks. Get my point, guys. Till 2015 we always used callback functions to handle the data coming from, see, what are we doing, guys? What are we using the callbacks for? We are using the callback functions. We are using this callback functions just to handle the data coming from the asynchronous function. This get users from Facebook function is giving me some data and I'm handling it using callback function. This get post from user is giving me some data. I'm handling it using callback function. Right, everyone? So some time back, like around 2015, 2016, this is how we used to handle data coming from asynchronous task. But then people understood the problem. And then in 2015, guys, something called as promises were introduced, which is nothing but a better way of handling asynchronous task. Or you can say a better way of handling any task which can be done via callbacks. You can convert it to promises. Okay, so you can think of it like okay, guys, spelling mistake, just make, okay, promises. Okay, so promises are nothing but a better way of handling asynchronous task, or a better way of handling anything related to callbacks. Not only asynchronous task, guys, you can use it almost at any place, but mostly with asynchronous task. Because guys, see, callbacks at normal places are fine because they are mostly going to be going till 1 or 2 levels. It's the asynchronous tasks where callback go beyond 4 and 5. That's why we generally use promises, or we generally relate promises with asynchronous task. But it's not fixed, guys. I know that some people say that promises are only supposed to be used with asynchronous task. It's not like that. You can use it anywhere. Okay, but generally they are related to async task, because at normal places you might have only 1 or 2 callbacks. So you don't need promises. Only when you're going in callback hell, at that point of time, you should always go for this. Now, we have talked enough. Let's try to understand what exactly is a promise. Okay, so guys, let me comment all the code above this. Okay, I'm gonna keep it so that you have an example. Yes, Utpal, that can be done, buddy. Yes. So now, guys, what are promises and how are they gonna replace the idea of callbacks or the idea of callback hell? So see, guys, first of all, promises were introduced in 2015 in ES6 version of JavaScript. Okay, now what are they? So guys, see, if I have to give you a theoretical explanation, a promise is like a task handler. Okay, in reality, see guys, in reality, what is a promise? What is the meaning of a promise in reality? Promise means some condition that you agree upon, that okay, I'll do this, I promise. Okay, and now from there are only 2 things that you do. Either you fulfill the promise, that means you do what you said, or you say no, I'm not going to do. right? That is what we call as rejecting the promise. Okay, so there are only two results that you can do. The JavaScript promise also follows the same idea. Just like you promise to someone, I promise that I'll pay you 2000 something rupees. Okay, then either you give or you don't give. Either you fulfill the promise or you break the promise. There are only two things that can happen, right? This same idea is basically incorporated in JavaScript to handle your task. Okay, but it's much more better in here. Okay, it's not like the real promise, but yeah, idea is from there only, because that's why it is called as promise. So in here, a promise is nothing but a tool which helps you to execute a task. Listen to me carefully, guys. In JavaScript, promise is a tool which helps you to execute a asynchronous task or a normal task, and then it tells you either that task is successful or that task is unsuccessful. Remember, guys, either that task is successful or that is unsuccessful. But now you might say, how it is, solving my problem, how it is, doing my stuff. So let me show you. You'll understand it practically. But remember, guys, a promise in JavaScript, technically, it's nothing but a object, okay, which always has a executor function. This object internally has an executor function in which you will write your task. So whatever asynchronous task you're performing in these functions, guys, you can perform them inside promises. So promise in JavaScript, coding wise, is nothing but an object which has a executor function with itself. Okay, inside that executor function you can perform your task, your asynchronous task, whatever you feel like you can perform there. Once your task is done, a promise will only give you back two things: either it is done or it's not done. Okay, so those things have names. Okay, it either returns two things: either it will resolve, that means fulfilled, done, or it will reject. And until and unless it's not resolving or rejecting, at that time it is still waiting, that means it's still working. So a promise is nothing but an object which has an executor function inside which you can perform your task. Now that promise will either resolve or reject, like either it will be fulfilled or you're simply breaking the promise. That's all. Nothing else will happen. That means a result is sure. A result is sure. But guys, you might still think like, how it is helping me? So don't worry, guys. Once you understand everything, that's why I'm asking you, just be towards the end, you'll understand everything and how we are using it to solve. See, don't learn promises to, as a replacement of callback hell. Learn promises to just understand them properly. And then you can understand how they are replacing your callback and all that stuff. Okay, so let's go. So guys, remember, a promise in JavaScript is an object which has an executor function in which you do your task, and after performing that task, it will either resolve or reject. Okay, let me show you. Let me show you, guys. Please focus, everyone. So, see, let's create a promise. So guys, it's very easy to create a promise. Okay, you can simply go ahead, const, call it anything, whatever you want. So let's say I call it as prom. Okay, what you can call it, whatever you can call it, whatever you want, guys. So now to create a promise, you have to use something called as new promise constructor. Inside this, guys, here you have to pass a callback function like this. So see, guys, callback functions are still there. Callback functions are one of the building blocks of JavaScript, guys. So you can never remove them. Our problem is not callbacks. Our problem is callback hell. Remember that, guys. Our problem is not callbacks. So promises also use callbacks. So here you have to pass a function. Okay. This function, guys, is what you call as the executor function. So this is the promise object and this is your executor function. Okay. Now a promises executor function by default takes two parameters. Guys, it by default takes two parameters. They are nothing but two functions. You can call them whatever you want, but they are generally called as only two things. You call them resolve and reject. But guys, here they are just names. You can call them whatever you want. RR, RES, REG. But it should be always called as resolve and reject so that it's much more understandable. Now here, inside this, here you can perform your task. Now right now, let's say my task is a very normal task. That is getting the users. So again, I do the same thing, guys. Let's say I do the same thing. Okay, so I go here. I do the exact same thing. I get my... Please, guys, try to understand how I'm replacing this logic with promise. Okay, everyone. Please understand that. So let's say I take this thing, whole thing, and I put it in here. Okay, everyone? Understood, guys? Okay. So now my task of getting users from Facebook, I am passing it in a promise. Okay. Now there are only two things that can happen. Either I got my users or something happened. So I'm going to do this. If I got the users, so if users dot length is not equal to 0, or sorry, it's greater than 0, that means I got some data. I got some data, and that means my calling was successful. So guys, here what you will do is you will take this callback function resolve and you'll call it here. So I'll call resolve, and now in resolve you can pass whatever you want. Okay, a message, a data, up to you, whatever you want, an object, an array, whatever you want. So let's say in this case I just pass successful data, something like that. Else, if some problem happened, then I want to reject. Okay, and then here I'm simply going to call, let's say, reject some problem. Okay, so guys, that's how you create a promise. Okay, simply give any object name, new promise, and then function resolve reject. So it's very important, guys. Here it should be resolve reject. Again, you can call them whatever you want, but I would suggest you to always call them resolve reject. So this is the executor function in which you have to put your code. Okay, now depending on what happened, because you will be knowing, right? As a coder, you will be knowing, okay, if you got the data or not. So if I got the data, that means it's done. If I didn't get it, reject. Okay, that's how you create a promise. Is that clear, everyone? Guys, now to execute this properly, or see, right now it's not proper. So what we need to do is here, we should also see, guys, promises are not by default asynchronous. Okay, promises are not asynchronous by default. Okay, if I execute this, this will be also executed synchronously, line by line, just like our other code. Okay, so I want this to become asynchronous. So for that, guys, you should always put this whole thing inside a function. Now guys, please focus how to make a promise asynchronous. That's very important. Okay, so I'm showing you now. So function, and then let's call it as same, get users from Facebook, something like that. And now see, no callbacks, nothing, just the function, and put this whole code of promise inside this function. Okay, like this. Okay, nice. Okay, and now guys, to make sure that this function is asynchronous, you can do two things. You can either do set timeout, right guys? Everyone, to make this function asynchronous, we can do set timeout, right? We can call this function and make it, put it in a set timeout, but that is not what we're going to do. Now here, we're going to be learning a new technique to make this function asynchronous. Okay, what you can do is just go before this function and add a keyword called as async. As soon as you add a keyword async before your function, that function by default becomes asynchronous. That means now whatever code is inside that function is going to be executed asynchronously. It's not going to block your main thread. Is that clear, guys? Everyone, that means now this whole code will be executed asynchronously. Understood, guys? That means, see, I have seen a lot of people say that the promises are asynchronous or promises execute code asynchronously. That's not the case, guys. Okay, you have to understand it in detail. Promises by default are not asynchronous. Remember, guys, promises are not created to make your things asynchronous. Promises are created to handle asynchronous task in a better way. They are a tool to handle asynchronous task in a better way, but they can also handle non-asynchronous task. They are not made to, just work with async task. That's why, guys, promises are not by default asynchronous. You have to make sure, you have to make them asynchronous. So right now, this whole code is going to become asynchronous because I added an async keyword before the function. So guys, async keyword, you use it to put it before a function. And if you put it before a function, that function becomes asynchronous. That means the whole code inside that function will be executed asynchronously. That means it will go on the web API, and then from there it will execute, right everyone? It will not execute on the main thread. It will not block the code. It will go on the API, then in the callback queue, and then again back to the main thread. But there's a little catch there. I'll explain it in some time. But guys, see, then you might ask, sir, what is the benefit? Getting my point, everyone? First of all, guys, has everyone understood this? See, just think that we replaced this code. We replaced this code. Okay, let me just take it here, down here. Just think that we replaced this whole code. Okay, you can simply say that we replaced this whole code, in which I was passing a callback and then calling the callback with this code. Okay, now this code might look a little bigger, but guys, it's better. Right now, don't worry, just give it some more time, you'll understand it in a much more better way. But just try to, let me show you the benefit, because I want to talk about each and every point. So we replaced this code with this code. Now the main difference is, see, this code was not by default asynchronous. So to make it asynchronous, what you did, you put it under set timeout to make it asynchronous. But now here, we don't need to, because we added a async keyword. So this whole code becomes asynchronous by default. Now that means we no longer have to use set timeout. First thing. Now we no longer have to use set timeout. Okay. Second thing now, now guys, after creating the promise, what you need to do is from this function, return the promise. Return that prom object. Return the promise object. Okay. Hi Rajan, how are you, buddy? Don't worry, guys, you'll get the benefit. Return the promise. Now see, guys. Okay. Let's do a final checkup. I have a function. Nice. Which is executing asynchronously. Nice, because of the async keyword. Inside that, I did all my task inside the promise. I did all my task inside the promise executor, and I got the data. And if the data is there, I resolve. If it is not there, if there is some problem, I reject. Okay. Now, and I'm returning the promise object. That means now, wherever I call this function, get users from Facebook, at that exact same place, guys, I'm returning the promise, right? So at that exact same place, I'm getting the promise object. Now, guys, if some function is returning a promise, that means that promise is either going to resolve or reject. And guys, it's inbuilt. You don't have to worry about it. If you're getting a promise from somewhere, that promise is either going to resolve or reject. So now you have to handle that promise. And to handle it, guys, call the function dot then. Then is the keyword, or then is the function which is called if the promise resolves. Okay. And then you have something called as catch. Catch is a function which is called if the promise rejects. Now inside this then, you can pass a callback function like this. Okay. And guys, inside this callback function here, in this data variable, you will get whatever data the resolve is sending. So in here it is sending a string, successful data. So that will be available in this data. So here, let's go. Console.log data. And if the promise rejects, whatever data it is sending in the reject, in the function, okay, here also you can pass a callback function. And here, let's call it error. You can call it anything, guys. It's just a variable. In that error variable, you will get whatever data it is getting sent from the catch, like this. Okay. So guys, see, whatever data is sent by resolve, it will be available in then's callback function. And whatever data is sent using reject, it will be available in catch's callback function in this. So guys, that's how you handle a promise. So if a function is asynchronous and it's returning a promise, that means that promise is either going to resolve or reject. And so that's how you handle it, by using dot then and dot catch. Dot then is called if the promise is resolving. Dot catch is called if the promise is rejecting. Now let me show you if it is working. Let me show you. Now guys, in this case, you tell me, is the promise resolving or rejecting? Everyone, come on, tell me. Is the promise resolving or rejecting? Please tell me, guys. Is the promise resolving or rejecting? Can you please confirm that, guys? Quickly. Right? User is having 2 data, so definitely length is greater than 0. So we know it's resolving. So in this case, it will call dot then. It will not call dot catch because it's not rejecting. So now if I save it and run it, am I getting my data? Yes. Guys, we are getting our data. And the best part, guys, why to send a message? you can also send this users, the whole users list here. So guys, this users now will be available in this data, and in the, see, now you're getting the data. So inside this dot, then you're getting the whole data available which was resolved. Is that clear, guys? Everyone understood the whole concept? So now we replaced this whole idea with this idea, this way. Now see guys, it might look a little weird that sir, promises, creating promises is looking much more bigger, or you know, a little bit bigger, but if you properly check it out guys, this line of code we didn't add there, we didn't add this line of code there, right, in the set timeout. If we added there, now let me show you how it will look, guys. Now let me compare it for you, okay. So let me create one more file, okay, let me create one more file quickly, and I'll do the same code with error handling using the set timeout. Is that clear, guys? Everyone, should I do that quickly? Let me do it. Okay, let's call it as index2.html, because I want you to understand this whole point here, okay. Because a lot of time this happens, guys. Initially as a coder I was also surprised, like why I'm using promise, right? Don't worry, now you'll understand it. Sometimes guys, initially we always think that why, but after some time we understand the proper, you know, why it's happening, or why we need to use this longer version rather than normal version. Let me show you the whole thing, okay. So fine, all good, nice. Promise, here I'm going to use the callback logic. So let me remove all this from here, okay, just promise. And now here let's use the normal approach. So function get users, same code, users from Facebook. How will I do it really here? Here I'm going to have a callback function to provide my data if it is confirmed, okay. Guys, please focus, everyone, okay. Now here some code, so call API, prepare data, and let's say here also I got my users, okay. Right now it's dummy data, but in future it will be real data. Now here also guys, I'll do this, right, everyone, if, okay. Now here I can't only have one callback. You know why? Because I don't know if I'm gonna get my data or not. So users, if it is users greater than 0, so guys, this is the proper approach. You actually have to pass two callbacks here. You actually have to pass two callbacks. One for successful, so let's call it as SU success CB, and one for fail CB, failure callback, like this, okay. And then here now, see, this is the proper approach now. So if users greater than 0, so I'm going to call the success callback function, and in that I can pass my users, just like what I'm doing in resolve users. So if fine, call the success callback and send all the users, nice. Else call the failure callback and send the error message, that is some problem. This should be the proper way of, this should be properly that function now, see. But now this function is not asynchronous, so now we have to use this technique, set timeout, okay. And after using set timeout, here first of all I'm having a callback, initial callback of set timeout, and then let's say 0 seconds, and now here I need to call that function, get users from Facebook. Now guys, it's having two functions, see, success callback, failure callback. So now here I have to pass two callbacks, okay. So let's call it as, you know, first callback, which is success callback, in which I'll be receiving users. Now in here I'll do something afterwards, and then I'll be having failure callback, so one more function in which I'll be receiving error. So it will actually go like this, see that guys, it's actually gonna go like this. And now in here one more function, then one more callback, one more set timeout, one more function, one more callback, one more set timeout. Getting the point now, guys? Guys, are you understanding the point now? How this is going to get complicated? Again, we're going to get in callback hell, and this time actually two callbacks. And it will again go callback, 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 callback. Now don't worry, still there is much more to promises. It will become a little more easier in some time. First of all, I showed you. See guys, don't worry about creating the promise as of now. What you need to worry about is handling. Because guys, our aim is not creation. Our fear is not the creation part. Creation will always require some coding. So if you compare now this code and this code, they don't have much of a difference, right everyone? They are almost similar. No big code. Yes or no, guys? Just one extra line of code. Other than that, everything is same, right? If you look at it properly, it's same. Guys, that means the problem is not the creation. The problem is not the creation. Either you create a function normally or you create a function with promises, it's almost taking the exact same lines of code. That means promises were never meant to replace your coding style. What promises help you in is the better way of handling the data once you're getting it. Here you're handling it using then and catch. Here you're handling it using this way. See that? Callback and callback. Now inside this you might have more callbacks. Let's also follow that approach, guys. Let's also talk about that. Guys, please focus everyone, okay? Please focus. I'm going to go in very detail now. So let's do second step, guys. Based on users, I need to get post. Shall we do that, guys, everyone? Don't worry. Once we go, once we create more examples, you'll get more idea of it. So guys, shall we move ahead, everyone? Shall we move ahead to the second example? Let's say based on users, I need to get my post. Okay. So first, let's go with set timeout. Let's go with the normal approach. Okay, this is fine. All good. Okay, nice. Okay. Now, guys, see. Let's get a function. Get. So one more function. Function get post from user. Now, guys, again same logic. This will also have few things. Yes or no, guys? Success callback, failure callback. And also, I need to pass a user. So I'm going to give you a user. And you will also have, let's call it SB and FB. That is success callback, failure callback. Okay, SB, SB. Here I called it success CB, fail CB. But here, let's say I'm using a shortcut SB, FB. Okay, nice. Now, here, guys. Again, call API, get data, something like that. And then let posts. All good. You got our post. Nice. Some data will be there, guys, dummy data. Now, again, same logic. If post is greater than 0 or whatever condition it is for you, I'm going to call the success SB and I'm going to send the post in that. Okay. Else, I'm going to failure callback FB, in which I'll send some error message that is some problem. Okay, nice. Okay, this is the function, whole function for get post from user. Now again, I need to only call this if this is successful. So nice. This function tells me that it was successful, right, guys? This function, this callback function is for that only. It tells me that it was successful. Nice. Then inside this, one more set timeout. Okay, nice. All good. And now in here, I'll call that function, which is get post from user, in which I need to pass one of the users, which will come from this. So users of, let's say, something like 0, one user passed. And again, two more callback functions here, right? Because get post from user has 3 parameters. First, the user, which you have passed, then success callback function, failure callback function. So I need to call them here. So one more function in which I'll receive my posts. One more function in which I'll receive my error. So in here it's the error, and in here now it's the post. Guys, can you look at the code now? Don't even worry about the functions. Functions are fine. Function is a task. It's fine. Here, guys, my aim is not to worry about the function anymore. Don't ever worry about the code which is inside the function, which you are writing for calling the API. Leave that, because that will change depending on the environment. Think about this, handling it. Think about calling the function and handling the data. Now look at the code here. Look at the code, how jumbled up and problematic it is looking. Now let's do the same thing here. Okay, using the promise logic. Everyone, focus now. Okay, fine. One more function. Function get post from user. Nice. I'm simply telling this function, I'm going to give you a user. I will give you a user. Nice. So I'll give you a user. Okay, good. And I want you to be asynchronous. So for that, I'll add async for you. Now, inside yourself, I'm going to create a promise object. So const, let's say again prom, call it whatever you want guys, prom equals new of promise. Okay guys, you'll understand. Okay, fine, I am just want to hold that surprise for some time. Okay, so again guys, one more function here guys. What is the what are the name of the two functions which you call inside a promise executor function guys? What do we call them, which is fixed? What do we call them, everyone? What should we call them guys? Quickly tell me guys, quickly, what do we call them, everyone? Exactly, resolve and reject. No, remember guys, whenever you're creating a promise, inside the promise this will be always an executor function. This format will never change guys. If you're creating a promise, this format will never change. So inside a promise, in your executor function, it will be always two callback functions, which is resolve. Guys, you understand, they are callback functions, okay? But internally, JavaScript has maintained them, how they will work. So you don't have to worry about them. Resolve and reject. And now here as well, same guys, call API, same logic, same code. It's just here you're doing directly, here you're doing inside a promise. That's the only difference guys. So call API, prepare data, okay, and simple logic now, let post. Now guys, here you will see the magic. The main magic is here, everyone. Okay, let's say if post dot length greater than 0, then I'm gonna resolve and I'll send all my post. Okay, and if there's some issue, I'll reject and I'll send some problem. Okay, nice, all good. Okay everyone, fine. Now here also I need to make sure that I call this get post from user only if get user from Facebook was successful. So now guys, we know, right, whenever get user from Facebook is successful, or whenever this function was successful, the promise would have resolved, and whenever the promise resolves, we know it's dot then, which is called. That means in the dot then we are sure it's working right everyone. We inside the dot then we are sure that get users from Facebook was resolved, it is working fine. That means inside this function, if this function is getting executed, if the function of dot then is getting executed, we are sure that the promise was successful. That means the task was successful according to our logic. So now inside this I can just go ahead. So guys, in this data we have users, as you can see we are resolving users here. So inside this dot then we have users, let's call them users rather than data. And now in here I can call the other function, get post from user, pass the user here, users of let's say 0, same logic. And now guys, okay, I forgot to return the promise, so return prom. Now guys, you tell me, everyone, guys, what is this function returning? What is this function returning? Promise or any dummy data? What is this function returning guys? Can you check it out? I have a promise object and I'm returning the promise object. So tell me guys, what is this function returning? Everyone quickly, come on. And also guys, don't forget to like the video if you're understanding everything. Exactly, it is returning a promise, and any function which is returning a promise, you can handle it using dot then. So again guys, if the promise that you're returning, understand guys the concept, if the promise that you're returning as a function, if it is resolving, then it will be handled here. So here whatever your resolve is sending, which is sending post, nice. So here post, okay, and I can do now whatever I want in here, and then dot catch for that if it rejects. And also same console.log the error. Okay, right now guys, I'm not showing you any output because I just want you guys to understand the promise. I'll show you the output, trust me, I'll show you the output in some time. But guys, are we cleared with this, everyone? Are we cleared with this logic? Now you tell me, first of all, at this stage, which code of handling data is looking better? Is this looking better or is this looking much more readable? Tell me, honest opinion guys, which is looking much more better? Because I'm going to give you a surprise in some time. Confusion where? Positive. Confusion where, buddy? Confusion where? Simple. See, I have two functions. This function is also this function has a promise inside which I have some code, okay, and it's also resolving and rejecting, and then I'm returning a promise. This function is also having a promise, it's also resolving or rejecting, and I'm then returning a promise. Simple logic. Then I call the first function, it is returning a promise, so it's either going to resolve or reject. So dot then if it resolves, dot catch if it rejects. Okay, same logic. So guys, are we cleared? Everyone, are you guys getting the idea here? Please can you confirm that? Are you guys getting the idea here? Okay, now here's the time of the surprise, guys. This can be handled again in a much more better way. So according to promise rules, if you are handling a promise inside a dot then, guys, listen to me carefully because this is what you'll be using a lot. If you're calling a function which itself it is returning a promise, and you're calling a function inside a dot then, that means you're already handling a promise, and inside that you're also calling one more function which is again handling a promise. So rather than doing it in this way, what you can do is remove all this stuff from here. Okay, now if and only if you are inside a dot then, you're inside a callback function of dot then, okay, and you're calling a function which is again returning a promise, rather than handling it then and there, add a return keyword to it, and once you return that particular, and guys, only if it is returning a promise, return it. So I know that this function is also returning a promise, so I return that from here. I say return, and if you mention return according to promise rules, now the dot then of this can be handled outside here. Dot then function post. So whatever you did here, dot then, whatever you did here, you can now do it outside here, which is the exact same thing, guys. Don't worry, it is going to be the exact same thing. Console.log your posts. Okay, this is what you can do. And the best part is, guys, this catch will work for the first promise. This catch will also work for this function. That means only one catch will handle all of its, all the rejects. If this rejects, then also this catch will handle it. If this rejects, then also this catch will handle it. That means this dot then is actually of this promise, but instead of writing it there and making it look complicated, you can handle it outside. So dot then, but remember, guys, this dot then can be only returned if inside the first dot then you have a function which is returning a promise, and you can return it. And now your code looks something like this, which is much more cleaner. It requires a little practice, guys, but once you master it, it's this simple. And now compare this code and this code. Right, everyone, getting the point here, guys? Hi Thor, how are you, buddy? And also, let me show you the output now. Let me create some dummy post. Okay, now it's time to show you the output. So title, hello, and one more data, title, holiday. Okay, and also let me print both the data. So here I'm going to print the user, so console.log users, which I'm getting, and here I'm going to print the post, and here I'm printing the user. Okay, so guys, let's test it, everyone. Now in this case, guys, you tell me, this is also resolving, so I should get my users. This is also resolving, so I should get my post. Correct, everyone? Is that clear, guys? Both of them are resolving, so in here post user should be printed, and this should be called, and then here post should be printed. So let's see if it is getting printed. Okay, let's check out the output once and see. First you got the users, and then you got the post. Is that cleared, guys? And the best part, what if the first one fails? Let's say it rejects. Let's say I don't have data in my users. I didn't receive any data. So guys, now the first one will fail, everyone. Correct? Now the first one will fail, right? So now if the first one rejects, this dot then won't be called, because now get user from Facebook promise is rejecting. So dot then will not be called, dot catch will be called, and now you will see you got some problem, or to make it clear, some problem while fetching users and some problem while fetching posts. See, you got this. And see, the best part is getting post from user is dependent, that only if users is fetched, then only I'll fetch post. And that's why see you don't see any post if users are not fetching. Now let's go back and let's make it clear. Let's get the data back. Let's get some data back. Okay, some dummy data, guys. Okay. And now see, I got both the data. And now if some problem happens here, if I don't have any post, let's say I don't have any post. So now I'll get the second error, and you'll see that's I got the users, but I didn't get the post. So this particular dot then is not working, and that's why we got it here. Is that cleared, guys? Everyone understood? Sir, can you display on? See, right now you don't have to see it on JS Visualizer. It will not be understood there that much. Here we have to understand promises coding wise first. On JS Visualizer, we'll only see where exactly it is happening in the call stack. Right now our main aim positive is not to watch it on the visualizer. Don't worry, I'll still show you, because that is in my mind. I still want to show you. But first of all, are you cleared with the promises, guys? How they can be replaced? Now see, guys, now instead of having callback hell, you can handle it using this way. Is that cleared, guys? Everyone understood the whole point here? Please tell me. Now in future, in here you can have some real task. In future, here you can have some real task, right everyone? Whatever task you want. That means, see guys, if you feel that there is a task, listen to me carefully, guys. If you feel that there is a task which is taking more time, okay, which is taking more time, what you do? You can make it asynchronous. So what you can do is you can put it in a function. Now you can call that function in a set timeout. You can put that whole task in a set timeout, or you can put that whole task inside a promise, right everyone? If you put it in a general set timeout, you need a callback function. If you put it in a promise, you have the options of resolve and reject. Okay, and you can make the function async so that it's asynchronous. And then if you have a callback logic, then you have to follow this approach of handling data. But if you use promise logic, you have to follow this approach of handling data. That means, guys, both the ways are fine, but the better way is the promises approach. Now let me tell you the real surprise, guys. 99% of the times you don't have to create promises. So guys, if you're worried about how I'm going to create this or how I'm going to create this, guys, 99% of the times you won't be creating promises. You'll be simply calling some functionalities which are returning promises. So guys, our main aim is to understand how to handle promises. So guys, now you know, right? If any function or if anything is giving you back a promise, you can handle it via dot then and dot catch. Right guys, everyone? Are you getting my point? So 99% of the time you won't be creating promises. I just showed you because I wanted you guys to understand the internal working. That is the reason I showed you that. But guys, in modern JavaScript, almost all the asynchronous tasks, guys, it's not you who will decide. See, there are some tasks that might take some time. So I might have to convert that into asynchronous, but that is very rare. But there are some tasks by default in JavaScript, which JavaScript also knows that it will take some time. So they have already made it asynchronous. And the best part is, guys, they have already made it asynchronous, and that asynchronous task is already giving you back what? Promise. And if it is giving you a promise, guys, you will handle it in this way. Is that cleared, guys? Everyone understood? A promise with either resolve or reject. Is that cleared, everyone? Guys, understood or not? Please confirm that, everyone. Can you please confirm that? Okay. Now, okay. Good enough. Good enough. Now I want to do one real thing, one simple thing, guys. Okay, one very simple thing. Okay, that is, see, I want to talk a little more about promises. Now guys, again, that as I told you, 99% of the times you won't be creating promises. You'll be just using functions which are already returning promises. So you'll call those functions and just handle them using then and catch. That's all. Okay. Now the real thing that I want to talk about is here, that is a little more about promises, how they work internally. Okay. So see guys, now let's go back to that logic, where I taught you about, remember that guys, when I talked about the whole working, everyone, how JavaScript works, guys, remember that, this thing. So we knew that we have a JS engine, right? Inside that we have a call stack. Okay, so this was our JS engine. And guys, in the meantime, if you're new here, if you're understanding everything, if you're liking the whole thing, guys, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel, guys, because I'm coming up with a lot of amazing content in coming days. Actually, in fact, tomorrow only I'm starting it with a 5-day 5 project course. So yep, guys, please do subscribe if you're new here and if you're enjoying the video. It will help me a lot. So we know that this is the JS engine, okay, and this is your call stack, correct, everyone? Nice. Now working of this we have already understood, so we don't have to worry about it. Okay, leave that. Then we know that this is the web API area where your timeout and everything happens, and then you have a callback queue, correct? So all the set timeouts send their callback to here, right everyone? Right guys? And you have an event loop, correct? This event loop's job is to continuously check the callback queue. Okay, now in modern JavaScript, like after 2015, in the whole JS working, a new thing was added. Okay, a new thing was added. That is, you have one more queue. Okay, which you call as, so guys, this was called as callback queue. But you have one more new thing added called as micro task queue. Guys, you have one more thing added called as micro task queue. So this here is a micro task queue. Now what's the difference between micro task queue and callback queue? That's very important to understand. Is that clear everyone, guys? So let's try to understand it. Okay, so please focus guys, what happens in the micro task queue and what happens in the callback queue. Let me give you an example. Okay, so let's have a function. Guys, please focus everyone. Please focus. So function, do something. Okay, so let's say this is simply doing console.log hello. Okay, now guys, everyone, I want to make this function, this task asynchronous. What should I do? Two ways. I want to make this function asynchronous. There are two ways. I want to make this whole task asynchronous. There are two ways, right everyone? One way is I use a set timeout. Right guys, everyone? No, two ways. First let's go with the set timeout. So function, callback function, 0 seconds, and inside this I call that function do something. So guys, what will happen now? What will happen now? When the call stack identifies, oh, I have a set timeout. Okay, I have a set timeout. So it will put this whole set timeout where guys? In here, correct everyone? That whole set timeout will come here, correct? And it will take its time, whatever happens, and all the synchronous tasks will execute, and then at the end, once the set timeout is done, this callback function will be picked and it will be put into what guys? In this callback queue, correct or not guys? It will be put in here, right? So first of all, set timeout will go here, all the tasks will be getting executed here, at the same time a set timeout will be completed. Then once the set timeout is complete, this callback function will come in the callback queue, and at that point of time, it might still be executing all the sync task, all the synchronous tasks. Once all the synchronous tasks are done, then callback queue checks. Then the event loop checks. Is there anything in the callback queue? Yes, there is a function. Take this function in here. Right everyone? That's what happens. And then this do something will be executed. And because of that, this console.log will be executed and you'll be getting your hello. That's the base approach. That's what happens in set timeout. First approach. Now, let's go with the second approach. Second approach is, rather than doing this, you can convert it to a promise. Is that clear, guys? Everyone? So what I can do is, I can do this. If or simply promise. So guys, rather than creating an object, let's directly return a promise. Return new promise. Here I'll have my function. Okay. Executor function. But guys, as I said, creating promises doesn't mean that your task is asynchronous, right everyone? You got my point, everyone? Creating promises doesn't mean that it is by default asynchronous. Okay, so you have to understand, you have to make it asynchronous. Okay, so function, here I'll get my resolve, here I get my reject. Okay, but remember guys, always promises are always better working with asynchronous task. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, promises don't create asynchronous task. Promises are used with asynchronous task. It's a tool to handle async task better. That's all. So here now guys, you can do your task and whatever it is, and if successful, so I'm directly letting if true. That means it will resolve. It will resolve. Is that clear, guys? It will resolve, right everyone? It will resolve. So if true, I'm directly resolving. Resolve. Let's say Saurabh. This is the data it is resolving. Else reject. Whatever it is, you know. Let's say some error. Okay. So simple, do something guys, and to make it asynchronous, what we do guys? We just add async in front of it. Okay everyone. So that's all, right? That's all. Simple, directly made it async. Cool. Now, when you call this function, do something, to handle it, because it's returning a promise guys. See, this do something is returning a promise, right everyone? It's returning a promise. So to handle it, you do dot then, and here goes a function in which you receive your data. Okay, and console.log data, and then here you go dot catch function, let's say error. Now guys, you have to understand here, focus now. Okay, now in this case what will happen guys, since it's a promise, now what will happen, you know, once the call stack identifies, oh, it's a async task, fine, don't execute it right now, leave it and put it in the web API, right guys? So remember guys, this promise code is not executed on the web API. Guys, try to understand, this promise code is not executed on the web API. No, that doesn't happen. This is still executed on the main thread. Okay. Secondly, when it identifies, oh, there is a promise handling, now what it does is, if it identifies this, then according to whatever that promise is doing, either resolving or rejecting. So if it is resolving, this is the callback function that should be called. If it is rejecting, this is the callback function that should be called, right? So let's say in this case it is resolving. So now what it does is, it takes this callback function and puts it in the micro task queue. That means promises callback functions are put in the micro task queue. Set timeouts callback functions are put in the callback queue. But promises callback functions are put in the micro task queue. Is that cleared guys? Everyone? So that's the main difference. That's why we have this micro task queue. So promises callback functions are put in the micro task queue. Okay. So if you have a set timeout, that callback function is put in the callback queue. And if you have a promise, handling promise, those callback functions are put into the, you know, micro task queue. But guys, remember this word, whatever you write here, okay, by default, whatever you write in the promise, that won't be asynchronous. Only if you mention async keyword, then this whole function will go in the web API and execute. So right now what will happen, this whole functionality will be going on the web API, it will execute there, and once you're handling the promise, that callback function, according to whatever it is resolving or rejecting, that function will come here. And now guys, the main deal, see. Okay, so now what happens is, first all your synchronous tasks execute, and at the same time your async function, whatever it is, this might be getting executed on the web API. Okay, and once it is done, the callback function will come here, whatever it is, then or catch, that callback function will come here. Now after completing all the synchronous task, here's the main thing guys, after completing all the synchronous task, event loop first always checks microtask queue. Is there something there? If it is there, take that in the call stack first and execute it. Only after completing everything in the microtask queue, if there are 10 callbacks, first it will execute all these 10 callbacks from microtask queue, and then only it will look for the callback queue. That means if something is in the callback queue, they also have to wait for the microtask queue. That means promises will execute faster because they are executed before set timeouts callback. Promise callbacks are always executed before set timeouts callback, because event loop always checks the microtask queue first, and then only it checks the callback queue. Is that clear guys, everyone? That's why promises are much more faster even than a set timeout of 0 seconds. Even if you have a set timeout of 0 seconds, promise will be still faster. So guys, one more reason to use promise. It's much more faster. Is that clear guys, everyone? Understood everyone? Please tell me guys. That's why you should ditch the set timeout until and unless you really want to use it for some timer. See guys, that means from now on, don't use set timeout to create async task. Use set timeout to create timers. Use set timeout to only for what it was created. Set timeout was only created for creating timers. Use it for that only. Previously people used set timeout to create async task. Now no. So now guys, again let's do a final thing. Everyone, I have a task, guys. I have a task. I want to make it asynchronous. Let's say I have these two lines of task, or let's say I have a task like for let I equals 0, I is less than equals 1000, I plus plus, and I have a let count equals 0. Let me test you guys. Let me test you now. Count plus plus. Guys, this is my task. Everyone, this is my task. I feel this task is big. It's taking time. Let me show you now. Guys, I'm going to show you a real example. Okay, not only API calling. Let me show you a real example. Now guys, here I think everything should be cleared here now. Everything should be cleared here now. So console.log line 1. Console.log printing the count. And console.log let's say line 3. Okay guys, nice. Some synchronous code. I agree, right now everything is synchronous. Let me just increase the zeros a little bit. Okay, just to make this task a little more, Now guys, let's say this is my code. Okay everyone, this is my code. Is that cleared guys, everyone? This is my code. Okay, let's execute this. First of all, I blindly executed because I don't know what is synchronous, what is asynchronous, so I executed. So let's go execute. Guys, did you see that? Took a little time to print the count. Did you see that? Let me increase the zeros a little bit more. Let's see now. See? Took a little time. Actually, much more time now. Actually, it is taking much more time. I think I increased few more zeros. Let me reduce 2 at least. Close the browser accidentally. Wait. Okay, can you see that now guys? It's taking a little time, right? Hopefully you can see that timing. I don't know if the stream delays. See now? Come on, just 1-0 counter. Yeah, see guys now? It's taking time, everyone. Right? Understood my problem. Right now, it's a loop. In future, it can be API call. In future, it can be a file reading operation. So I feel, oh, this is a task. It's taking time. So let's make it asynchronous. So to make it asynchronous, guys, two ways. Either set timeout, but as I said, I'm not going to do that now. So what I'm going to do is, sorry, again I'm writing set timeout. I'm going to get a function. Let's say function big task. Let's call it as big task. Okay. And I put this whole code in there. Okay, guys, everyone. Put this whole code in there. Okay, simple logic. Now, I want to make it asynchronous, but I also want to handle it properly. I want to make it asynchronous, but only making it asynchronous won't solve my issue. Okay, so now I also want to handle it. So I'll put it inside a promise. So return promise, sorry, return new promise. I go here, resolve, reject. Now guys, I'm sure that my code will never be rejected. This is not a code which will take time, so it won't be rejected. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to only do resolve. Guys, you can also do it optional. You can only do resolve. So my aim is to only do what, guys? Just resolve. So that this count can be available. Is that clear, guys? Only resolve. Okay, just resolve. I don't want to reject because I'm sure it will be resolved. Because it's a normal code. I am sure it will never get rejected. But if you want, you can put a condition. Okay, nice. And guys, only making it promise won't make it asynchronous. Right? Because see, and also guys, let me prove it to you now. Let me prove it to you now. Let's just go and call that function. Big task. Let's see. Is it still blocking my code? Oh. Where did I forget something? Okay, I forgot the function keyword, guys. Okay. See guys, still taking time, right? I'm unable to see the output because I have not logged it. I have not logged the count. That's why I'm not getting that output. But you can see, right, line 3 comes after some time. See that, everyone? That means that middle code is still blocking my line 3. That means it's still not asynchronous. That means, guys, now it is proved. Only writing promise doesn't make your task asynchronous. Is that clear, everyone? Guys, so now it is proved. Promise is just a way of handling async task. Promise doesn't make async task. In a modern JS, promise is a way of handling asynchronous task. So you should always attach promises to asynchronous task. They are understood. So now let's go and make it async. And now you will see it will no longer block your code. See, it's still blocking. I think I should call it properly now. Okay. Now let's go now and let's handle it normally. So big task, it's returning a promise, right, everyone? So let's handle it. Dot then. Okay. Dot then, here I should get my data. So dot then data, which will be nothing but I'm resolving the count data. So that I can be passed here. Console.log. Sorry, spelling mistake. Function. Okay. Now let's check it out. Line 3 is still taking time. I think there's some issue. Let's confirm what's going on here. Line 1, line big task. Now it's fine. Actually, it's fine now, but the speed is reduced. You can see the speed is actually reduced. But a little time is still going, but that's fine because that task is actually big. That task is actually quite big, so it's also blocking a little bit. But you can see, guys, the time is reduced, and now it's happening at the end. Actually, let me do this. Let me move this task outside. Just to here. Execute in the function. Now let me check. Nope, still same time. But now at least the time is reduced a little bit. Okay, guys, you can see now it's working fine now, because now async task is getting executed at the end. Can you see that, guys? Everyone. So again, guys, as I told you, remember that this function goes in the microtask queue. This still executes on the main thread, and right now I have, knowingly written a very big task here. But I hope you're getting my point, everyone. You got the point that this callback function is still going in the microtask queue. That's why you're getting this code at the end, this output at the end. First you're getting line 1 and then line 3. Is that clear, guys? But still a little time is saved, but not all the time, because it's a really big task. Is that cleared, everyone? Guys, can you please confirm that? Are we cleared with this? Guys, can you please confirm that? So remember, guys, promises are not meant to make your task asynchronous. Promises are simply meant to handle asynchronous task. Okay, and as I said, 99% of the times you won't be creating any asynchronous task. They are always there. You'll be just handling promises. Thank you so much, Vasu. Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay. Now then, guys, let's move ahead and let's talk about one really important thing. Yes. Let me show you the visualizer as well. Okay, guys, let me show you the promise visualizer, everyone. Where's my chat window? Wait. Yeah, here we go. Okay. JS visualizer. Okay, now see, guys, in here, you might remember, guys, yesterday we saw this, right, everyone? See, we have the task queue, which is your callback queue, which is also called as task queue, and here we go microtask queue. So set timeouts, callbacks go here, promises, callbacks go here. Okay, so let me show you now. Let's take this whole function, this whole logic. Now, guys, in reality, you won't be having a task like this. This is a very heavy task. This takes a lot of CPU, so it's a very heavy task. Loop running till I think some 10 crore times. So it's a very big task. Okay, generally we'll never have a loop like this. Okay, guys, everyone. So don't worry. I just knowingly created a big, very confusing task just to show you what's going on. Okay, now see, guys, here run. See, failed to run script. Oh, there's some syntax error. Are you sure? How is there a syntax error if it is working on my PC properly? I think there is no syntax error. The engine is unable to execute this much zeros. I think that's the issue, most probably. So, guys, there I think I should reduce. Are you getting the point, everyone? I knowingly made a task very big. That's why it's taking still a little time, but it became asynchronous. Don't worry about that. So let's reduce the zeros now, and hopefully it should work. Where is the syntax error? If it is working for me, async function big task. How come there is a syntax error? Here it is working fine. Okay, let me reduce some more zeros. Maybe. How come there is a syntax error if the code is working fine in my PC? Let's see the console if we have that. I think it's unable to perform because of, the number or maybe something like that, because I am unable to see any syntax error here. Let me just add a dummy catch. Nope, guys, I don't know. There should be not there should not be any syntax error here. Let me remove the async. See, now it's fine, everyone. Yesterday what we used, it doesn't have the microtask queue. That's the problem. That's why I'm coming on this. Now see guys, this editor was unable to understand async. Is that clear, guys? Everyone? Okay. So no issues, completely fine, Let's go. Let's run it. Now see guys, everyone. Line 1. Now see, big task goes here. Nice. Now see, the executor goes here. Executor is also on the main thread. Now see guys, now here we go. This callback is going in the microtask queue. Instead of going in the task queue, it's going in the microtask queue. And see now, everything will run. Line 3 is running, and now that microtask queue comes in the call stack, and now it will be executed, and we should get 1001. Is that clear, guys? Everyone? Are we understanding it? Guys? Got it, everyone? So I don't know, maybe there is some problem with this. It should not be a syntax error, but that's fine. Okay, but I think I showed you the idea now, that it is now going in the microtask queue. Promises, callbacks, these things go in the microtask queue. But guys, see, first of all, I hope that you understood what exactly is a promise. Okay? And one more thing, guys. What if without handling, you just print the promise? Okay, that is also I want to explain it to you. So console.log, just print the promise. So just call big task, which is returning the promise. Okay, guys, so let's see. So guys, I'm not handling it, I'm just printing it. I'm just calling the function, so it's returning a promise, and I'm just printing the promise, because I want to show you what's inside the promise. So now you see guys, here only the promise is getting printed. Okay, and now you remember one thing, guys, please remember one thing, that only the callbacks of then and catch go in the microtask queue and are called at the end. If you're printing the promise object, it is printed then and there only. You can see now, right now it's not getting printed at the end after line 3. It's getting printed wherever it was called. That means whenever you call a function which is returning a promise, the object is available on the same spot. Only the callback functions are available at the end. Is that clear, everyone? Because they go in the microtask queue, and after execution of everything they come back. Okay, but promise object is always available on the spot. Okay, and you will see guys, now prototype is promise, that is basically what it is parent. You don't have to worry about it. You have to see the result, the state. Result is what you get in dot then. Result means what you're getting in dot then. In here I'm getting the count. Whatever I'm resolving, guys, see, whatever you resolve, that will come under result. And see guys, right now promise state is fulfilled. So promise has three states: pending, fulfilled, and failed. Am I correct with the name? Let's reject and let's confirm. If I reject, what is the state? I forgot the name. Let me just quickly go ahead and let me know. Reject the count. If you reject, you should get promise rejected. Is that cleared, guys, everyone? Okay. So see, whenever you print the promise, see, right now it is in pending state. Okay, right now it is in pending state, but at some point of time the state changed and it became rejected. Okay, everyone. So there can be only 3 states of a promise: fulfilled, rejected, pending. Until you handle it, it's in pending state. Once it resolves or rejects and you handle it, depending on it is resolving, so it goes in fulfilled state. If it is rejecting, it will go in rejected state. Is that clear, guys? So dot then is used to handle the fulfilled state, and dot catch is used to handle the rejected state. Pending state is until and unless the promise has not done anything, it is still executing. That's what pending state is. Is that clear, guys, everyone? Are we cleared with this? Can you please confirm that? Now guys, as I said, you won't have to create promises. Mostly, 99% of the times. By default, JavaScript developers know that there are a lot of tasks which might take a lot of time. So they have, so if reject, then you have to use catch. Komalpreet, you have to use dot catch. Rejection is handled using dot catch. So whatever you get in dot catch, that is the rejection part. Is that cleared? Okay. Now guys, here we go. Now, as I told you guys, there are a lot of things that you want to do using JavaScript which might take a lot of time. For example, calling an API. For example, reading a file. JavaScript also knows this, and it knows that these are very big tasks. Don't worry, Utpal, I'll still, don't worry, lecture is not ended yet, don't worry, I'm still here. Okay. So JavaScript knows that calling an API is a big task. So the function that JavaScript gives you to perform calling an API, they have by default made it asynchronous, and it by default returns what? Promise. So guys, they have so now let's test one thing. Let's test one thing only. That is calling an API. Okay. So for calling an API in JavaScript, you by default have a function available called as fetch. In this, you have to pass the API URL, guys. So just to show you, let's test a dummy API. So guys, you can find a dummy API on JSON placeholder. This is a website which provides you with dummy APIs, dummy API URLs. So I want to call this one 100 post URL. So take this URL. So guys, I'm calling this API URL. Okay. And guys, to make it easy, JavaScript gives you a function of what, guys? Fetch. Is that clear, guys? And guys, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. This function is by default asynchronous. You don't have to make anything async or anything like that. This function is by default what? Asynchronous. And the best part is, guys, let me show you that this function, see, by default returns what? Guys, this function by default returns what? Promise. That means I didn't do anything like return new promise. I didn't do anything like, you know, resolve or reject. All that is done internally. I'm not doing anything. My job is to only call this function, and I know it is returning a promise. So if something is returning a promise, it is either resolving or rejecting. So dot then if you resolve. So let's see what's coming in resolve. Mostly the response of that URL should come in resolve. And guys, here also you can use the arrow function as well. So let's use the arrow function. So let's log it. So in resolve, we get response of fetch, and in reject, if it rejects, we can handle it in the catch. So in the reject, you get the error message if something happens. So here. See guys, did we create a promise, everyone? Did we create a promise? No, we only handled it. This function is already asynchronous, and this function is already having promise internally. I'm not doing anything. Is that cleared, everyone? Guys? And now you should see, is this resolving or rejecting? Let's see. It is resolving, and that's why you're getting your response. See that, guys? But if you make some mistake, like some URL mistake, like this, then definitely internally inside this function some problem will happen, and if some problem happens, it should reject, and now you should definitely go to, you'll get the catch issue. See guys, this is handled by catch. Now that promise is rejecting, but guys, I am not the one responsible for promise, creating promise. No, it is not replacing promise. It's just now positive. You are not creating promise. You are only handling it. See, buddy, positive. Here, we were creating promise, and we were also handling promise. We were creating promise, and we were also handling promise. Do something was a function which was returning a promise, and we were handling it. Here, we are not creating promise. We are calling a fetch function. Internally, the promise logic is already written. So it's not replacing promise. Promise is still there. But I am not the one creating it. Is that clear, buddy? I am not the one creating it. Is it cleared? I am only handling it. Just like how I handle it here. Just like how I handle it here. See, dot then dot catch. If the promise of this do something, returning. No, Utpal, there is also no syntax difference. Just remember, buddy, I am not creating promise. That means somewhere this function is there, fetch function. Internally inside this fetch function, return new promise, resolve, reject is there. I am only handling it, buddy. Is that cleared? See guys, please don't lose the focus. There's no syntax difference. Exactly. Here we were creating the promise, we were creating the function which was asynchronous, we were creating the promise, it was resolving, it was rejecting, and then we were handling it by using dot then dot catch. Here we are already using a function which is already handling promise, already creating promise and resolving and rejecting. That means if I have to show you, somewhere a fetch function is there, inside that return new promise is happening already, resolve, reject, all that stuff. Somewhere something like this is there. Is that clear, buddy? Somewhere something like this is already there. It's just I'm not creating it now. I am only handling it dot then catch. Understood, guys? Everyone? Hopefully. Now, guys, if you read this code, if you read the data, let's make the URL correct again. Okay, now the URL is correct. Now if you see, guys, here we are getting a response object. That means this promise, whatever promise this function is returning, that promise resolves a response object. Right, guys? That's why we are getting the response object. Yes or no, everyone? We got this response object. But if you see, here there was a data. We are unable to see data because data is inside body. And body is not having your data directly. It's having a readable stream. So to extract this data, to extract that data from that readable stream, here also you have to do response.json. You have to call a function response.json. This function gives you again a promise. Let me show you. See, guys, this function also gives you a promise. Now, guys, again, simple logic. Guys, whenever you see, oh, this is giving you a promise, how to handle it? Everyone, this is giving you a promise. How do we handle it? Again, same logic, dot then, and this promise resolves to your data. So you should get your data here. And if there's some issue, we should have a catch. But guys, if you remember, first of all, let's see if it is working. I should get my data now. Let's see. Here we go. See, we got the 100 data now. All the data is here. But guys, just now we learned, right, that if you are using something, if you are using a function which is returning a promise, if you are calling a function which is also returning a promise, and if it is inside dot then either you do this approach or you don't do this approach and simply use return keyword. So return that promise from dot then. So now you can handle this promises dot then here by chaining it. Right, everyone? And now the single catch will work for this promise as well as for this promise. Right, guys, everyone? We learned it, right, everyone? I think somewhere on the top we learned it, hopefully. If you remember it. See here, right? Our get post from user was also returning a promise. So either I handle it here only by using dot. So guys, if any function is returning a promise, you can use dot then dot catch on the spot. But if you're calling that function inside a dot then, if you're calling that function inside a dot then, you can simply return it and handle its dot then outside. That's a simple rule. And still it will be same, but it will make it look much more better. See, still same output. Understood, guys? As I said, 90 to 99% of the times you won't be creating promises. You'll be only doing this. As a JS developer also, guys, you'll be only doing this. I know creating promises might be a little tricky. But as I said, very rarely you'll be creating it. You'll be always using it. So guys, what you need to learn from here is, see, main idea was now you understand promises. And I showed you every bit. I tried my best to show you every bit of how to convert a normal task into a promise-based task. But as I said, it will be very rare. But I just wanted you guys to be cleared from all the ways so that in interviews, if they ask you, you should still be able to know how to create a promise. Utpal, you will never need more than one catch. If you're going with this way, chaining method, like chaining dot then, you'll never need more than one catch. If you're handling this separately, then you might need a catch separately inside. But if you're returning it, then this catch is enough. Is that clear, guys? Everyone? Guys, are we understanding it? Exactly. Okay. So guys, if you now, from now on, if you ever find out or use a function which is returning a promise, you know what to do. Dot then, call that function, dot then, dot catch. In the dot then, see what you're receiving. Just remember that dot then's callback receives the data which the promise is resolving. Dot catch's callback receives the data which the promise is rejecting. That's all. Okay. So to handle the resolve, we go for dot then. To handle the reject, we go for dot catch. Now guys, let me show you one final way of handling promises, because that's it what we're going to be doing a lot. So guys, if you also find this much more complex, then there is one, like not complex, but if you don't want to code like this, then there is one more way. There is one more way. That is, see guys, you can handle promises either by using dot then, dot catch. The other way is, if you know, now guys, tell me, is this function returning promise? Everyone, yes or no? Is this function returning promise? Yes or no? Quickly guys, quickly, come on. Till then I'll just have some water. Tell me guys quickly. Yes, right? Cool. One way of handling is dot then. The other way of handling a promise is, you can go in front of this function and add a keyword called as await. But if you want to use this keyword await, you have to put this whole thing inside a function. Okay, let's say function handle fetch. It's a rule, guys. This whole thing should go inside a function, and await can be only used if and only if the function is async. Otherwise await is not useful. See, if I remove it, I have an issue. See that? Await expressions are only allowed within async functions. So you have to put a async. Now what is the meaning of this await keyword, guys? What is the meaning of this await keyword? First of all, await simply means wait. Okay, that means, guys, I'm giving you two things about await. Okay, listen to me carefully. If I have some code like this, console.log line 3, okay, await will make sure that only if this line is completed successfully, then go to this line. That means await now make sure that now this whole code is working in a synchronous manner. But it will not block your main thread, guys, because it's still async. Okay, but await will make sure that only if this completes. See, here you do this, right? You do dot then. So this callback function makes sure that only if this completes, then perform this. If you're not using dot then you have to use await. That only when this completes, then go for this line. So await means wait till this line completes and then go on to the other line. So it is making these two lines works synchronously. It is making these two lines work synchronously. But only these two lines. They will never block anything else because they are itself inside async function. So I just want these two lines to work on dependent on each other. That's why await. Second thing that await does is, guys, await resolves. That means here, if you use dot then, inside the dot then you have to pass a callback function, and in that callback function you receive your data or your response. If you use a await, guys, if you use a await, no need dot then, whatever this promise is resolving to, that data will be available in this response. Await makes sure that this promise is resolved, and whatever it is resolving, that is available here. So let me show you now. See that, guys? Oh, I didn't call that function, so sorry. handle fetch. See, you still got the response object, right everyone? Guys, got it? No use of dot then, right? Just use await. But guys, why await will always make sure that only this line completes, then only this should go here, because it's important, right? Because I don't want to print my response until I get my response. That's why await. But remember guys, these two lines are not blocking other things. Let me show you. If I have something outside here, like console.log some random line. See, that's getting printed first. That means await is not making the whole thing synchronous. It's only making whatever is inside this function synchronous. Because guys, this function itself is asynchronous. But only to make sure that whatever I'm writing after this fetch, it should only execute after completing the fetch. That's why await. It's only mimicking this dot then. Because in dot then also you say the same thing, right? Fetch. Only when it completes, then call this function. Now we know, right, this dot then doesn't block other things. It's only so that fetch completes and then only it executes. Same thing here. Only when this fetch completes, I want this response to be printed. But it's not gonna block the other things which are outside. Only the code which is inside the function will become asynchronous. Sorry, synchronous because of the await. But the whole function itself is asynchronous. So it's only for those lines of code, not for the outside things. So it's not affecting the outside world, guys. It's only for that particular function. Because you want that. Is that clear, everyone? Now, from response also, guys, everyone, from response also, to extract data, because see, your response object looks like this, right everyone? It looks like this. See? Again, I need data. So guys, how do we get it? Everyone, how do you get it? Response.json. But this also returns a promise. So if this is also returning a promise, no issues. To resolve it, use await. And await will make sure that whatever data is resolving, it's directly available. So let data. And now you should get your data. Is that clear, guys? So when I say that these things are becoming synchronous, don't think that, oh, then why are we using it? Then where is asynchronous? No, guys. This whole function is still asynchronous. Only these three lines I want to go one by one. Even though the whole thing is asynchronous, I want these three lines to go one by one. That's why just only they are still asynchronous for the other code. But for themselves, they are synchronous internally because I want them to behave, I want them to execute one by one. For that reason only we are using dot then, right? You complete, then this, then this. You complete, then this, then this. Only when this has happened, then this. Same thing. You complete, then this, this, then you complete, then only this. So only for these three lines, but they are still asynchronous. Understood, guys? How to change data? To change data, just call a different API URL. That's all. Just call a different API URL. That will be sorted. Is that clear, guys? This is what async and await means. And guys, this is one of the best ways of handling promises. See, only in 3 lines. No callbacks, no dot then, no dot catch, just 3 lines of code and everything is handled. And guys, you can also handle your own promises with this logic. Okay, guys? But now there's one case. What about handling the errors? Because await is only handling the dot then. Right, everyone? Await is only handling what dot then is doing. What about dot catch? What if they reject? What if they reject? So for that, guys, just take the whole code, put it in a try block, like exception handling. Put it in a try block. And at the end, have a final catch. And here you can get the... Oh, sorry. If you're using try catch, you can't put a callback function. You have to directly go like this. So you can use a JavaScript try catch logic. Console.log error. So guys, remember, here if you use dot catch, you have to pass a callback function. But if you're using try catch of JavaScript, you don't pass callback function. You simply pass the error and directly the block. Here catch itself is a function directly. So this is the way, guys. Now this catch will handle any rejection that comes from here or that comes from this promise. Exactly. In Java also there is try catch. In here also it's try catch. So guys, that was async and await. So guys, yep. Now we are at the end, everyone. Is that clear, everyone? So in today's session, guys, we saw first thing. Thank you so much, Komalpreet. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So guys, now today we saw first of all the problem with callbacks. Then we saw how to create promises, which will be very rare if you want to create it. Then we saw how promise handling is better than callback handling. That's why all the internal tasks in JavaScript also are now converted to promises. Just think, guys, why the internal function like fetch is returning a promise? Because JavaScript wants you guys to use promises from now on. Okay, and then finally we saw one use case of promise fetch, and then finally we saw async and await. Now remember, guys, async can be used normally anywhere. To make any function asynchronous, you can use async. But if you're using await, it should be always inside a function which is async. Is that clear, guys? That means await always requires async. Async can be used anywhere freely. Async can be used to make any function asynchronous, but await can't be used without async. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone, guys? I'm too tired for speaking this much. A little bit, but you know, it's when you guys enjoy it, when you guys enjoy the session, when you guys understand everything, my energy is always high for you guys. So don't worry. Always like that. The main thing is, if you guys are understanding, then I'm happy. That's my happy thing. Okay, guys, so this is what we learned. So guys, final thing, to create a promise, very simple. A function, return a new promise. It takes the executor function, resolve, reject. Do your task, resolve and reject. To handle it, call that function, dot then to handle the resolve, dot catch to handle the reject. Simple. And as I said, mostly you won't be creating promises. So guys, from now on, you know, right? If ever someone comes to you and tells you, can you convert this task into asynchronous? What to do? Guys, what to do? Create a function, make it async. Inside that, create a promise, make a function of resolve, reject. Put that task there, depending on whatever it is doing. Resolve or reject, and then handle it wherever you want. Right, guys? That's how you make a synchronous task. But as I said, guys, it will be very rare. It will be very rare. Okay? At a very high level, after learning very much and at a very high level, there will be a possible chance that you will be creating your own promises for something. As a beginner developer, you won't be creating a lot of promises. You will be only handling promises. So guys, that was all about asynchronous JavaScript in this 2 days. Okay, and I really hope that you guys understood everything and enjoyed the whole asynchronous JavaScript session. Now don't worry, guys, in future also, maybe after 1 or 2 months, day 3 class, we don't need a day 3, buddy. We don't need a day 3. We have almost completed everything. We don't need a day 3. We don't need a day 3 positive. Yes, Komalpreet, definitely I am planning for that. I am planning for that. Definitely I am planning for that. Starting my own, online classes. But let's see. That might take a little time. Till then, I'll be on YouTube always. Actually, YouTube is my online classes. YouTube is my online classes. I think I'll be teaching here almost every time. Mostly. So, yeah. So, guys, now, I hope you know from tomorrow, right? We are starting with, as you guys voted on LinkedIn, we are starting with this, right? 5 days, 5 projects, everyone. From tomorrow, we are starting with this. So I hope I'll be seeing you every day. Because once we finish this, then we are going to start with what, guys? MongoDB. So we'll be taking a MongoDB course, complete MongoDB course, then one complete MySQL course, and then we'll be ready to go power up the backend. That is going to be Node.js. Okay, guys. So complete full stack is coming your way, guys. Complete full stack is coming your way. We have learned CSS, we have learned JavaScript DOM manipulation. Now we have learned JavaScript asynchronous thing. It was very important so that Node.js will be easier for us. Guys, we only learned this concept of fetch and promises because in React and in Node.js, a lot of things, a lot of functions are there which return promises. Okay. We are not going to create promises, but in Node.js and in React.js, there are a lot of functionalities which return promises. So there we need to handle the promises by using then and catch. That's why this session was important. Now next, guys, is this 5-day 5 projects. And after this, guys, MongoDB, then MySQL, and then finally we'll be starting with Node.js, which will be our biggest session on YouTube, which will be around 10 or 15 days live stream, mostly. Continuous, complete Node.js. So guys, I want you guys to subscribe the channel. That will help me. Only if you want to. Please do subscribe the channel. And also, guys, if you can, please share this 5-day 5 project course with your friends on your Instagram, on your LinkedIn. Only if you can, please share this course with your friends so that they can also join in. So if you have a college group, if you have a office group, if you have any friend group and they want to learn something related to IT or web designing, please share this 5-day 5 project to them as well. Okay, guys, everyone, if possible, please do that. Thank you so much, Nanda. Thank you so much, Utpal, Komalpreet. Thank you so much. Okay, now, guys, once the session ends, please go ahead and show some love in the comments if you can. If you have time, just put some comments, whatever you want. Some courses that you want about them also, what you liked about the session, what you didn't like about the session, anything you can comment. Okay, and guys, the GitHub link of this will be added into the description of this today's video in the next half an hour. Okay. So guys, the GitHub link of this whole Asynchronous JS course will be added in the description of this video only. Okay. In the description of this video, I'll be adding the GitHub link. In the next 20-30 minutes, it will be added. Okay. So guys, please share it with your friends. The next course, which is 5-day 5 projects. And please, you can go ahead on LinkedIn and follow me there. And that's all, guys. That's all. And if you're new, please don't forget to subscribe, guys. And please share the channel with your college group and friends. That will help me to grow a little bit. So yeah, guys, that's all. Thank you so much for today. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see all of you tomorrow. Tomorrow only, guys. We are starting with 5-day 5 projects. And guys, all the designs, I'll try my best to make them look very, very beautiful. So all the designs will be very great. I'll try that. I'm not sure, but I'll try that. I'll try to make them the best looking websites possible. Okay. So yeah, guys, that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye, guys. Good night. See you all tomorrow in our 5-day 5 project race marathon. Guys, it's a marathon, right? It's a marathon. So yep. See you tomorrow, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Good night, guys. Good night, everyone. Good night.